Hello, my name is Craig Voss. I'm a product manager here at Makino at our Mason, Ohio location. Just a bit of housekeeping. We will have a live question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so please add your questions in the chat box at the top right of your screen. Now let's get started with today's topic, the fixture hydraulic unit. The topics we'll be reviewing today are, in general, what is the unit? We will go over the general information and specifications of the unit, and then we will review some specific capabilities and examples of the unit itself. So let's get started. First of all, what is a fixture hydraulic unit? Makino's fixture hydraulic unit is a complete standalone system that's able to power complex hydraulic fixtures. It provides continuous hydraulic and air as well as coolant to both fixtures on a pallet changer machining center. The fixture hydraulic unit, because it houses many of the controls that will sequence the fixture and verify parts seated, it allows us to simplify the fixture design in that some of these sequencing valves and check valves and other items that are typically included with your fixture will not be required. This makes for a much simpler fixture design and allows you more room for parts and clamps. The unit can be operated two ways, manually or via M-code automatically. So this allows us to pair the unit with automation as well as manual operation. And it's important to note that this fixture control unit is integrated directly to the machine control and communicates with the machine control. That makes it very easy for an operator during fixture setup, troubleshoot, or in automatic operation with any type of automation. And finally, the unit is compatible with Makino's NX series machines. Now let's go through the general information for the Makino fixture hydraulic unit. At the heart of the system is a gear-driven pump that is variable speed and allows us to provide 800 to 3,000 psi of clamping force. Because of the higher pressure, we are able to utilize higher clamping forces for some of your larger parts, and we are also able to sometimes reduce the clamp size in cases where we're trying to fit more parts on a fixture for a higher density and more throughput. Also available on the unit are air circuits. So with these, we can provide part seat detection as well as a variety of other functions. The unit utilizes a 12-port rotary union to supply hydraulics and air directly to the fixture from overhead. And additionally, beyond the hydraulic and air, we're able to provide coolant to the fixture as well. So we have another port with a larger hose that runs through the center of the rotary union and allows us to supply that coolant directly to the fixture for various purposes. Finally, we have a heat exchanger on the top of the unit. And this keeps the unit running cool, keeps the hydraulic temperatures down, and allows the unit to run in a continuous operation environment for high volume and automated applications. So now let's talk about the standard specification for the Makino fixture hydraulic unit. First of all, and most importantly, each pallet will be equipped with 2 hydraulic valves. So that means for each hydraulic valve, we have 1 clamp line, 1 unclamp line available. And for the 2 hydraulic valves, that gives us a total of 2 each per pallet. So we have 2 clamp lines, 2 unclamp lines on each pallet. Next, we have our air circuits. There are 2 air lines available per pallet. These are supplied with SMC digital pressure sensors and allows us to provide a variety of different uses on the fixture. All of this is supplied with the 2 rotary unions as well as an arm kit and hoses. And that's how we get the supply from the unit through the machine and into the fixture itself. So with that standard specification, it's important to note that we can definitely expand the unit. We have 12 ports available in the rotary union, and while these are not all utilized within the standard configuration, we can add valves as required both on the air side and on the hydraulic side to provide endless possibilities for different types of fixtures and different applications. So beyond the standard specification, let's give a little bit of insight to where this unit lives on the machine. So as you can see in the pictures, the unit is located at the front right corner of the machine. And that is our standard location, probably where the majority of these units live. As you can see, we also have hose and cable management, which allows us to keep the outside of the machine orderly and organized and clean all around. As an option, we are able to put this unit at the back of the machine. So in cases where we have automation content, we have conveyors, we have other items and equipment near the front of the machine that prohibit or eliminate the possibility of putting the FHU unit in that location, we can move it to the rear of the machine. And this is an option, but is used in many, many automated systems that we've provided. Now let's talk about the capabilities of Makino's fixture hydraulic unit. The unit is designed for continuous operation, so it's ideal for automated systems, 24/7 high volume production operations. This unit is able to control some of the most complex hydraulic fixtures. We have even supplied, in certain instances, custom software that allows for sequencing that may not be available through standard parameter settings. We're able to reduce pressure on each circuit where required. And in other circumstances, we can also provide a dual pressure if a specific clamp requires both high pressure and low pressure clamping during different parts of your process. Pneumatic part seat detect is one of the more common uses of the airlines and is very essential when you decide to automate any system. Through fixture coolant is used to keep the fixture flushed and washed and free of chips. This is also something that is used very commonly in automation and is essential to achieving your throughput and your uptime, which is expected in an automated environment. Continuous connection in the machining area allows us to control the fixture while it is in the work zone. There's several uses for this. One being we can unclamp and reclamp a part for stress relief purposes. Another would be to remove a clamp from an area of the part that requires machining. Again, the unit is expandable up to 12 lines, so the possibilities are endless for what we can do with the hydraulic and air circuits of the unit. And finally, the unit is compatible with automation and is an essential piece of automation and ensuring that you get the reliability and the throughput and uptime that you're expecting from your automation. Now that we've gone through the capabilities of the unit, let's talk about some specific considerations for the fixture hydraulic unit. First of all, I want to talk about chips. What is the cost of a chip on a locator? Obviously, this is a very bad situation. Typically, it's going to cause reject parts and scrap material. So how do we detect that is the first question, and the second question is how do we prevent those circumstances from happening in the first place? We have a solution with the Makino fixture hydraulic unit. Let's talk about it a little further. First of all, we have our air part seat detect functionality on the unit. As you can see here, we have a hole in the primary locator circled in green. The small air hole allows us to pass air pressure between the part and the locator. Once the part is clamped down, the pressure raises and we sense that the part's properly seated. If we do not hit a specified pressure, we can alarm and indicate that there's something wrong with the part load. This is typically used on primary locators in most fixtures. With that said, this functionality can also be used on secondary and tertiary location in the case of 321 type locating. Now this next video shows another example of our part seat detection. Again, we have the hole in the locator, and we're using those SMC pressure sensors to detect any kind of issue. In addition to the part seat detection, we're also able to look for possibly broken locating pins or spring-loaded locating pins that are not in the correct position when loaded. Or we could potentially detect a part type using a plunger on the fixture and air circuits within the fixture. Now let's move on to our through fixture coolant option. So detecting a chip is the first part of the equation, and it's very important that we know that a chip's there. But let's take this one step further and come up with a way that we can eliminate the chip from ever being there in the first place. And that's what we're able to do with this through fixture coolant option. As you can see, we have nozzles. They're organized around the locators so that we can wash the fixture and clean critical areas of the fixture, eliminating chips and debris that could cause loading problems. As you can see, as we mentioned earlier, we have the coolant line at the rotary union that allows us to pass coolant into the fixture. And then you can also see we have a specific nozzle that's aimed at some of the critical areas of the fixture. This example on the right shows you an instance where we're flushing a primary locating pad to keep the chips away. And finally here we have a video. This shows the actual option in use on a live fixture. A little bit different type of nozzle that can be aimed at the locating pad and or locating pin. So these are positioned as required throughout the fixture. They can be turned on and off as required. So we can operate this coolant circuit both inside the work zone as well as at the pallet loading station when we're loading and unloading parts. The next consideration I'd like to talk about is how do we reliably and consistently clamp a workpiece. Again, the Makino fixture hydraulic unit has you covered, and we'll talk about how in some of these examples. This particular example shows a fixture for machining yokes that required heavy metal removal on the ears. And this, in order to support the machining operations, we required work supports. Those were in the way when loading, so what was arranged here is a rotating mechanism that moves the work supports in and out of place, as you can see with the video. The clamping sequence involved several operations here. So we had an OD chuck that clamped the part. We also had some loading guides that needed to be removed from the part prior to machining. And as I mentioned earlier, we had the rotating work supports that would move into place, and then we had to control the actuation of those work supports. Another thing to notice in this particular example is we do have the fixture wash nozzles aimed at the chucks and the precision locating surfaces on the fixture. So the point here is that our FHU system was able to control all of this actuation and timing as required for the operation. Let's move on to another example. This one's a bit more complex, involving a transmission housing. This part, due to the locating, which is internal to the part, and the large tower on the fixture, required that the part be loaded from overhead. Because of the standard position of our rotary union above the fixture on the center line, we were not able to load the part in that orientation. So what we had to do is come up with a loading orientation where there's an arm and the rotary union swings out of the way. So you can see we've got two different scenarios for the loading and the machining. Beyond that, the clamping for this particular fixture became very involved. Not only did we have the swing arm and the locking pin, but we also had the standard clamping for the remainder of the fixture. In this case, we used a hybrid approach to the control for the clamping. The FHU system was used to control the swing arm that moves the rotary union out of the way, as well as a locking pin and the general supply of clamping pressure to the fixture. Beyond that, the fixture itself contained the controls for the actual clamping sequence that's shown in detail here. So as you can see, we had a hybrid approach. The customer used their existing fixture design with all of the sequencing valves intact and pressure reduction. And the FHU was able to connect and provide additional control to move the rotary union out of the way, allow for loading, and maintain that continuous connection with the fixture. Now that we've gone through some more standard types of applications for the fixture hydraulic unit, let's talk about a few more unusual situations and maybe more out-of-the-box possibilities to see what's possible here. Again, the fixture hydraulic unit has you covered. In this case, you might need a little bit of help from our application engineering team. So for the first example, I want to go over an example with some quick change fixture plates. Many of you may be familiar with the zero locating details that can be used. Many of these are manual, and you can have manual plates that remove from your fixture to allow for different parts to be machined on the same tombstone. In this case, we were able to accommodate multiple fixture part types with the different plates. In order to do that, we used the 0-point locators as mentioned, and in this case, these 0-point locators are controlled hydraulically. For these particular parts, the clamping locations were the same, but the locating locations were different. So the only thing that's contained on each of these plates is the locating scheme. The clamps themselves remained intact on the fixture and were stationary. So as you can see, we've got the plate loaded on the fixture in this picture, and then we've got another showing the part actually loaded on that fixture. All of this is controlled by the Makino fixture hydraulic unit, and we are able to automatically load and unload these plates with this scenario. Now let's talk about a little more detailed scenario here. Similar concept where we have the fixture plates for different part types. In this case, we are in a fully automated cell where the robot is loading parts. These were actually small inline 4 engine blocks, and this automation is still in production today. So it's used to manufacture multiple types of parts, and what we have is automatic changeover with the robot. So you can see the stand where we have the fixture plates. We also have grippers storage for the robot. So what this allows us to do is when the operator signals a part change to a different type, the robot automatically communicates with the machine, prepares the machine. Once the last part is unloaded, the machine is cleaned, goes through a coolant wash cycle in the work zone, and then is brought back outside where the robot has access to the plate. The plates automatically unclamp so the robot can remove them and set them on the storage stand inside the cell, and then the new plate is loaded. So this is completely automatic and no operator intervention required whatsoever. In this case, because we also have fixture clamps and possibly work supports on those plates, we needed a way to provide hydraulic and air through those plates. So for that, we use quick connects for the hydraulic and air that you can see circled in red on the lower right picture. And because of the complexity of this situation with the 0-point locators, we have air cleaning for those 0-point locators, also seat detect for the 0-point locators, in addition to the normal clamping that we have to deal with the multiple hydraulic clamp circuits and work supports and the pneumatic air seat detect. This becomes a rather complex system, and as I mentioned, utilizes all 12 ports. And now we'll begin our live question and answer session. But before we do, I'd like to mention that we are broadcasting from one of Makino's Experience Center rooms. As I mentioned, we're in Mason, Ohio here, but we have these Experience Center rooms in some of our other locations in North America. And if you have If you have interest in a Makino machine but are not able to visit one of our showrooms to see it in person, we may be able to set up an EC event where we can do a live broadcast. We can show video content from inside the machining center and hopefully give you a very good view of what that machine is. So feel free to reach out to either your salesman or through our webpage if you'd like to set up an event for a one-on-one event. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining. I know your time is valuable, so hopefully you've learned something here today. I know the fixture hydraulic unit has been a very important part of our business here in North America, and it's become a very useful tool for our application engineers. So with that, we want to take some questions here today, and I'm going to see here what we've got coming in, and we'll answer a few of your questions regarding the Makino fixture hydraulic unit. So it looks like I do have a couple here. The first is how many air circuits can be used? So actually, that's a very good question. As mentioned, our rotary union has 12 ports. With that said, we also have software to support all this, right, for the controls. So the standard software is actually set up to handle 8 air detects at a maximum. And really thinking that through, the number is not arbitrary. It's been, kind of developed over the years that this unit has been available. If we utilize 8 of those 12 ports for air, then that leaves 4 remaining that can be used for the hydraulics. So that's what we have in place. Again, I guess I'll mention there that if you were to use 8 air detects on a single pallet, we would need to provide an expansion. So that would be in addition to the standard unit and the standard configuration, as we mentioned during the presentation. So hopefully that covers it and answers that question. Next, so how many clamp circuits can be used? So again, we have the 12-port rotary union. It is flexible. We can run hydraulic and or air. But from a software point of view, the standard software is set up for 6 lines per fixture. So actually, let me take that back. That would be 6 valves per fixture, which would mean 6 circuits. So we can control, we usually letter these, so we have A, B, C, D, E, F are the terminology that's used in the software. So those 6 lines, or 6 circuits rather, can be used for 6 individual clamping circuits. The software is designed such that we can set up all the sequencing, the timing out of the box. If we need something different than that, which we have done in the past, where we need maybe more lines, maybe we need more clamp lines, but not as many unclamp lines, if we're in a case where we can share clamp lines, we do have some possibility that we can create some custom software for you so that you're able to utilize, some more clamps if possible. In that case, you'd need to contact, Makino Application Engineering, and we could work on that. Okay, we've got more questions coming in here. Is there an FHU compatible with an A81 or A88E? So essentially what's happened over the years, this unit was originally called a CPH, continuous pressure hydraulic unit. It was a little bit different configuration, and that is what was developed on some of the earlier machines. So yes, in some cases there is a unit that's available there. With that said, it would not necessarily be an FHU fixture hydraulic unit. So in those cases with the older machines, I would recommend that you get with your sales team or your local salesman, and they can discuss with our engineering group and decide, what's possible for a given machine. Okay, let me look through a couple more here. Okay, so this is a good question. What's involved if we wanted to switch back to a tombstone that's fully mechanical instead of hydraulic?
Do we have to remove the whole FHU arm and rotary union and cap everything? So yes, essentially there you've more or less answered your own question, but what would be involved is the fixture would be removed. You do have the arm and the rotary union up above. Those would have to be removed from the machine. Otherwise they would be in the way. And there's nothing there to support that unless there's a fixture there connected. So they would be removed, cap everything off at the manifold, and it would be turned off in the parameters. And then you could run manually there. Okay, continuing on. Okay, another good question. Is hydraulic pressure monitoring available to detect a drop in clamp pressure during the machining cycle? The answer there is yes. Because this unit is fully integrated with the machine control, we are continuously monitoring the pressures and making sure that that unit is doing what it's supposed to. If it's a small leak, the unit will continually pressurize the fixture, and it'll basically allow you to continue running and somewhat cover up that issue for some time. However, at some point, if a leak becomes so severe that the unit is not even capable of maintaining pressure and you're probably going to lose hydraulic fluid, that would be the point where you'd likely see an alarm on the control. Okay. Okay, there's a follow-up to the question about the switch back to mechanical. A temporary switch back to mechanical instead of hydraulic. So if you wanted to do this on a temporary basis, that'd be a little tricky, I guess. We are able to provide a situation where you would have one hydraulic fixture on, say, pallet A, and you'd have a mechanical manual fixture on pallet B. So that's a possibility, if that was something that would help. But otherwise, it would be a pretty extensive process to change from hydraulic to manual fixturing. Probably not something you'd want to do every day. Okay. Let's see here. Believe I have covered everything in the list. If you have further questions down the road, or anyone would like to set up a personal one-on-one EC event with our engineering team here at Makino, you can contact your salesman and we can arrange to do an event that's more specific to your application and your needs. So with that, I'll say thank you again for your time. We appreciate your attendance, and have a good afternoon.